dinosaur barbecue with beef brisket and chicken mojito. And John Pfaff and I were down there testing it out a couple months ago, and it is very good. Of course, protocol usually would be the host would let everybody eat first, but in my case, I eat first, and I'm also going to eat last again. If you know me. I'd just like to say thank you all for coming. This is a very special event. Some of the undergraduates probably think we're doing this every year, but we will not be back for several years, much like the Hocus, cicadas, whatever like that. We won't be back for a few years. We got a real big day planned, as you know. Today we're honored by many people. But just like to say thanks to everybody coming. This is not a project that was done by one person here. The whole brotherhood worked together. The undergraduates, all the alumni worked together. We had cooperation from a lot of people, as you'll hear from different speakers. But I thank you for coming, and now I'd like to turn this over to Bob Bedard. Bob Bedard, class of '75. He's instrumental in running our alumni work sessions, which we inaugurated about 8 years ago, where 50 alumni come back every summer and work the weekend with the undergraduates. And it's been a very successful program. We've forged a lot of good ties with the undergraduates, plus fixing up the house. I give you Bob Bedard, and I'll see you at lunch. Thank you.
Who has participated in a work session, even once? Just raise your hand, everyone. All right, names of the guys who haven't, please. What's going on? All right, real quick. It's a time like this when you realize when a Bob gets to introduce a Bob who's going to introduce a Bob, how common the name Bob is. In fact, it's so common, Bob Sherrill came up and said, shouldn't I be up here? Pretty bad. But the next Bob that I get to introduce is not common at all. And in fact, I think he's probably contributed as much, if not more, than any single person has passed through stores. Bob Eckert has been the chapter advisor here for 5 years. During that time, we've won 3 Peterson Awards, which basically says we're one of the best Sigma Chi chapters in the country. We've won numerous awards from RPI, including the best attorney on campus, and Bob has been named the chapter advisor of the year from RPI. In addition, he's a Constantine He's a Constantine Sig, which recognizes that since his long-time commitment to the fraternity and to this chapter, that dates way back to the day that he first passed through the store, and yes, there was a time he actually could fit through that door. But aside from that, but all kidding aside, I get to introduce my dear friend, Bob Eckert.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here today with everyone. It is a culmination of an effort by many, many, many people. I'd like to take a minute just to talk a little bit about the process that we went through. We started this back in 2007 with a committee of alums to decide where might we go as a chapter, what were our housing needs and everything. Most people here probably will remember that where that tent is, there was this modular addition that we put up with for 40 years, which had seen better days, didn't fit in with the neighborhood. So we thought that it would be fitting to, after looking at what our options were, everyone decided that the place to stay was in this neighborhood at Pinelands Avenue. We had come to been here since 1942 and thought it's our home along with everybody else that lives around here. So when we put the process together, I just want to talk a little bit about the help that we received, the encouragement that we received from a number of reporters. Okay? First of all, the first step was once we decided we were going to move forward, we had to go in front of the zoning board for the city. I'm going to tell you, there was nobody more supportive of this effort than the members of the City of Troy Zoning Board. They actually stood up and spoke very positively about this project and the things that it brought to the neighborhood, the things that it brought, the new goals that it set essentially for the Greek system at RPI and the houses in the City of Troy. When we finished with the zoning board, the next step, of course, is to go to the City Planning Commission. I got to say again, they were incredibly supportive. It was obvious that the City of Troy was encouraging development of fraternities and sororities in a responsible way. We were able to do both of those pieces. We had support from both of those boards. We've had a lot of support from our city councilman, Ken Zalewski, who has just organized a wonderful neighborhood group in East Troy that we are very, very, very pleased to be part of. We had, the mayor was supportive. We really couldn't find anybody other than one neighbor who doesn't live here anymore. Incidentally, I'm going to throw this out. It was the 42 Heinrichs, and So when we were at the planning board, he took great effort in trying to minimize or trying to stop certain pieces of this. However, the minute it was finally approved by the planning commission and he was selling the house next door, suddenly it became, we were the greatest neighbors in the world. And then we did everything for everybody in the neighborhood, which I thought was cute. Our lovely neighbor now, Mark Reagan, bought that and put mine in the sinker. We're very glad to have him as a neighbor. Anyway, so we have deep thanks to the zoning board, to the planning board, to the city councilor. We also had, and I'm getting the privilege to introduce another person representing the city. We have with us today the president of the city council, Lynn Kopka, who would like to make a few remarks for the city and for the mayor. So it's for the mayor today.
It's not very often that I can come up here and say, hi, I'm from the government and we've actually helped you. Wonderful. Thank you very much on behalf of the mayor, the entire city council, and the entire city staff who were involved with putting this project together. As a historic preservationist, I really appreciate that the terrible stuff is gone and that the building now fits, blends, it's wonderful, it's terrific. I really appreciate that you spent over $2 million here, that your property assessment has no doubt gone up and you're paying even more in taxes. Wonderful. Certainly not what you want to hear, but definitely what I want to hear. So thank you very much for being here today. It's wonderful. And keep up the good work, and may this spread to every fraternity on the east side so that we're seeing continued reinvestment in our community. Thank you.
I think what we're trying to do today is just sort of tell a little story of where we started and where we've gone and where we plan to go in the future. So that was kind of a piece of the pre-construction activities. And so let's talk a little bit about the actual construction process and how we ended up with this design and what happened. Right? But let me just take 1 second. There are a whole bunch of chairs. I feel like a priest of church, right? What is sitting in the front? And don't leave after communion.
Just don't pass a collection basket.
Just wait till those older people out there like John Murray and Ronnie Yeager. Just sit down. Okay. Anyway. Okay, the brothers are running. Here. So at this point, the next step in our process was to get an architect, get our finances together, and get a plan for where we were going with our new structure. The person who really was part of our fund, he was co-chairman of, or is co-chairman of our capital campaign, was the project manager for the construction project, and I'm not quite sure how he managed to do that along with his job working for a consulting corporation. But he obviously put in a lot of hours, stayed up late, got up early. I used to get emails from him at like 5:15 in the morning that I opened up about 11 a.m. So I'm very, very proud to be able to introduce to you my brother Jim Menaki, who from the class of 1975, who was project manager for the building project.
Good morning, and thank you all for coming. And just a thank you for not introducing me as Jim the House Builder, because that honor really goes to Lisa Cowell, who really did build this house. And also those emails you got at 5:15, those I sent when I got back from the gym. But you know, when Turk first asked us to put together a committee back in early 2008 to look at house options, I don't think any of us ever had any inkling that what we'd end up doing is what we did, and that we'd be standing here today in front of this beautiful house. I never, ever imagined that we'd be here. It was a long road, though, from options identification and selection, and it was interesting. We thought about tearing the house down or moving to a new house, and the interesting thing with the Brotherhood is how people rallied around 58 Pinewoods. This is what we knew, this is what we loved, and people really wanted to stay here and make this one better, and I think it turned out wonderful. But it went from that to then architectural designs, and Bo Michael and Bob Cunningham. I don't think Bob is here today. We were hoping he'd be here. Bob was our chief architect, and it was really his genius for what we could turn what we used to call the Pinewoods Palace into that resulted in this, and now it really is the Pinewoods Palace. But without them, we couldn't have done any of this. And then it was our fundraisers, the folks at Pennington and Company, that taught us how to actually go and raise money to get the project done. And the generosity of our brothers, starting with Bill Pomeroy, for whom this house is named. I mean, the support that we got from the Brotherhood was incredible. We had huge help from our general fraternity, starting with my big brother, Bob Jones, who at that time was Grand Counsel. I said, Bob, I've never built a house before. What do we do? And he's the one that put us in touch with people like Pennington and Bob Cunningham and the others who helped us put the project together, starting with Bruce Gassner, who taught us how to put together an educational foundation so that we could raise money. There were dozens of people involved. When we were approaching construction, and we had to get mortgage loans, we had the educational foundation, which will continue on, hopefully indefinitely, with Paul Cosgrave, P.J. Rowan, Larry Mentz leading the charge there, to put together a plan to raise the mortgage loan from Pioneer Savings, to whom we're obviously deeply indebted. and Bob Jones helping us with Constantine Capital, a Sigma Chi organization that provided the construction loan, the bridge loan, to make this thing possible a year ahead of originally planned. We shouldn't have been sitting here until next year or possibly the year after. But with the bridge loan that we got from Constantine Capital and more generosity from our major donors who accelerated their payments. Most of the major donors paid off their 5-year pledge in 2 years, some less. We couldn't have done this. And then we have the team that actually worked on the construction. And I want to start with Al Hanbury, because he was really the guy who had the construction knowledge, details. I'd never built a house before, and as a consultant, I could manage a team, but I sure as heck couldn't build a house. Alan's knowledge of the building trades, knowledge of construction, helped us not only to build the house right, but also to build it within our budget. He knew where we could do something a little bit different and save money, and where we really had to spend the money. His sage advice is about it. Larry Heineken. A lot of these guys are from the 70s. Alan a year before me, Larry a year after me. Larry assisted in all the site work. He was instrumental in making sure that we had proper drainage and excellent landscaping, but most importantly, Larry made Lake Sigma Chi go away forever. Those of you who lived here know what Lake Sigma Chi was. We always had a lake in the winter and into the spring. We don't have that anymore. It drains. Larry Fry, chief engineer for Marriott Corporation, who helped us identify and procure a lot of the mechanical systems. We now, it looks like a hotel, and it is a hotel. And the mechanical systems are Marriott quality and style. Matt Ludeman, attorney up in the Saratoga area, his legal assistance in getting all the real estate transactions done. Of course, we donated the house from Fives on Five to the Pinewood Educational Foundation, and the bank executed. Bob Bedard, who, in spite of everything else, did a lot of work, purchasing and coordinating the furniture, in addition to all the work sessions and the move-in. And Eric Polvino, one of our younger alums, who helped us wire this house properly for the 21st century. We've got about 12,000 feet of Cat6 cable, countless routers, wireless hotspots, sub-panels all over the place, fiber optic cable. This thing is set for the future. But I really want to express sincere thanks to Lisa Henderson. Lisa, where are you? Lisa, President Stone can say that. Lisa is the house builder. And not only did they do a wonderful job, and I absolutely love the house, it's beautiful, but they got it done on time. When we started talking about this and realized that we had to tear down the addition, rip apart the old house, pour new foundations, build a new house, and have guys move in by the middle of August, I was really skeptical and frankly scared to death. But we actually started late because of some issues that we had with asbestos abatement. And in spite of that, we finished it on time and on budget. So Lisa, thank you so much. I also need to thank my wife, Pam. Number one, for putting up with me for having to do this for the last 5 years, because it's been a 5-year journey. But then also putting her to work, doing all the color selections and furnishings and all of those things. So I don't even know where you are. And Lynn, who also helped with color selections and making sure we were historically correct. But finally, Justa, Bob Ecker. Justa was here all the time. And while I might have been on email at 5 in the morning and on the phone with Lisa, Justa was here almost every day dealing with all of the countless items of minutia that you can imagine building a 16,000 square foot house. He was here for that. He was here for the active brothers and found them alternate housing. He dealt with the big issues in addition to the small issues. None of this could have ever happened if we didn't have Justa on the ground here.
Thank you.
So while I can't be called Jim the House Builder, I was deeply involved in this one, but I have to say this is probably the last fraternity house I will ever build. I now want to introduce Foss Hooper. Foss is an alum from the class of 1966. He's a highly respected estate planning attorney in northeastern Wisconsin. He and his wife Mary have 2 children, Beth and Ted, now in Phoenix with their 2 grandsons. As a roommate of the Jolly Green Giant, Bill Pomeroy, Foss is one of our largest benefactors. So, Foss.
Thank you, Jim. I'd like to say that I've known Bill for 51 years now, since we were Pledge Brothers together. And we did room together as juniors. I got to know him pretty well, so I've got some insight I'd like to share with you today. But first, I've got to do rumor control. The rumor control, that Anvil, is not, I repeat, is not symbolic of all the times Bill got hammered while he was Now, it's very significant that we're standing here because, you know, in over 50 years of time, sometimes memories fade, get changed, different versions come out. My version of how Bill got his nickname of Jolly Green occurred really in conjunction with this porch. And we started, I think it was our sophomore year, the tradition of having an annual Halloween party for the neighborhood kids, or a haunted house. And as part of one of those parties, Bill dressed up as a Jolly Green Giant, climbed out of the window that's up above the second floor, out onto the roof, so he could ho-ho-ho at all the kids. And we, his brothers and friends, of course, locked the window, knocked them out, and kind of forgot about it. So I'm not going into details about the act of vandalism that was performed for Bill to get back in, but Eric, you were the house manager. Did Bill ever pay for that broken window? He is paid now because it's marvelous that in 50 years' time we've gone from the Bill Pomeroy window to the Bill Pomeroy chapter. I think there's something else you need to know about Bill also. Bill has a reputation for being cheap. I mean, this is true. He does. I don't know that that's the correct terminology. Let's just say Bill is very careful with his money. Was when we were undergraduates, is now. So when he buys something, he makes sure he gets good value for his purchase. And when he invests, he makes sure he gets a good return on his investment. Which meant that when Bill jumped into the fundraising campaign early and significantly, it sent a signal to all of us that here was a project that was worth doing, number one, and that because Bill was involved, would in fact get done. So he served as an inspiration to all of us. So kind of in summary, number one, Jolly. Bill is good. As you can see, Bill's a good guy. Bill Jolly fits. Green, if you've ever had the privilege of seeing the companies got in the Syracuse area and how well they reuse and repurpose everything that comes through the door, they are certainly environmentally green. As far as a giant, well, Bill's of large stature, which you'll see in a minute, but also he's accomplished wonderful things in his lifetime. But not just for his own benefit. What Bill has given back to the Syracuse community, to his employees, and to this chapter truly makes him a giant of a man. So I'd like to introduce to you our brother, Bill Pomeroy. Jolly Green.
Thanks, Foss. The checks in the mail. You get what you pay for, so that was a terrific. Thank you so much. But he does have a creative memory about the porches. So that certainly has developed over the years. It's quite a story. And I'd just like to say good morning
myself to the brothers and their guests. We have some neighbors here and friends of the fraternity. You know, it's great to see you all here this morning. I've been looking forward to seeing the chapter house. I actually missed the work party in the summertime, so this was the first time that I had the opportunity to see what had been wrought since I had been back here earlier in the year when it was still under construction. I saw the email pictures. That was one aspect of seeing what the house was, but I'll tell you, it just, the photographs, it just didn't put it all together. And when we came in and we saw the Anvil and we walked through the house, it was just quite overpowering. There's only one word that can come to mind to express that, and it was just really exceptional, an exceptional experience. I can't be happier with this finished product, and of course, I'm really proud and happy for all the folks that were involved in putting this together. I know what it takes to build a house. I have one I'm building right now. It's quite a challenge. You don't really want to get me started on my story because I could spend a long time on that and all the challenges that we've been having. So I do know, Jim, what your job was on a much more massive scale. Now, I'm supposed to say or answer the question, why this Anvil monument over here? But before I get involved in that, I also want to extend my thanks to our guests from the city. We have Lynn Topka here, President of the City Council. Thank you so much for being here. And all the other folks that we've been talking about that it took to make this project successful. And in particular, I do want to acknowledge Bob Decker for your help, particularly with the monument and all the effort that we had to go to putting that together. And then another word of recognition and Jim and Aki again. They're the guys that actually flew into Syracuse, Jim's pilot, and paid me a visit. They had the plans together. My arm still hurts a little bit because I think they had it up that high. But when I could see that what had happened to the house since they got involved and the progress and the developments that were underway, and I was able to see the commitment that they had and what they were saying about what they were going to achieve with this project. I mean, I had to sign on and come on board because I knew what I was doing. Not only was I investing in the future of this fraternity, but I was investing in the team that these guys had put together that were going to make this happen. And you can just see what a great job they were able to do. Let's just give them another hand, my gosh. Okay, now to the meat and potatoes of my remarks, and what is this thing over here? What's it all about? And this is the 11th Anvil we have placed on the Pomeroy Anvil Trail across the United States. This celebrates the western migration of the American people after the Revolutionary War by following one family. The original anvil and tools and land were offered to my ancestor, Maydad Pomeroy, in 1660 as an economic to get him to move to a speculative community called Northampton, Massachusetts, where the investors were trying to sell lots of land to settlers. They needed to have a church and a preacher, and they needed to have a blacksmith, but they couldn't get people to move there. So he was offered his tools. He took the deal. He moved there, and he had 10 kids. His 10 kids had 10 kids, and you know how that went back then. So there was a big Pomeroy clan that was settled around Northampton, Massachusetts. The anvil itself is quite a bit smaller than this replica. We have actually an exact cast replica of it here, which we plan to bring into the house later on today. So if you'd like to see what a 1660 anvil looks like, it doesn't look at all like an anvil that we have today, but this is what a colonial anvil looked like back in 1660. And the original was actually cast here in America at a colonial foundry, and there were only about 4 or 5 of them around. We probably could figure out which one it was. This anvil and the tools were passed down through many generations of Pomeroy blacksmiths and gunsmiths, and the anvil survived up until about the 1950s. And when it was lost, I lost track of it. I couldn't find it anyplace. I knew it existed and it was out there. And quite by accident, my wife and I were traveling through Massachusetts, and we went to Northampton. We just stopped at this little museum. And my golly, I go in this museum, and here is a musket made by my ancestor back in the 1700s, and there's a bear trap made by my ancestor in his foundry back in the 1700s. So I asked the person at the desk, and this museum is about 1,000 square feet. It doesn't really amount to much in terms of space. Do you have any other Pomeroy artifacts? And she says to me, "Oh, you mean like the Pomeroy Anvil?" I just about fell over. They had it in the back room. It was in the warehouse, and it had been tucked away there for decades. I was ecstatic, so I ended up borrowing the Anvil through Syracuse University, bringing it to Syracuse, having replicas cast in the art department. And so we have one in bronze that we'll put on display a little bit later on. This Anvil has become really the symbol of the Pomeroy family because of the history of being blacksmiths and gunsmiths. In tracing of blacksmiths, one really traces the history of America, and this history is important to preserve and to celebrate. We had erected our first monument in a great granite in Pompey, New York, and since then we've added additional monuments from Maine into Massachusetts, also in New York, and all the way out to Ohio. When we came up with the idea of the Pomeroy Anvil Trail, we wanted to create a vehicle wherein our monuments and their message would form a lasting impression upon people in the communities where the monuments are placed, and also remain in the mind's eye of those people who have seen them. I couldn't be prouder of the Pomeroy Anvil here at the Chapter House to pay homage to the Sigma Chi Creed and honor our founders, Constantine Sigs and significant Sigs. Now I have to admit, there were several people when we started our project they kind of looked at me strangely when I said, well, we're putting an Anvil monument at a fraternity house in Troy, New York. But they didn't really understand Sigma Chi. They don't understand the essence of what all this means. The Sigma Chi Creed is inscribed on the front of the monument, and it's something that we believe in and use to guide our lives. It is one of the many things that we celebrate that makes Sigma Chi special. When brothers read the back of the monument, they should have a sense of pride in the accomplishment made by those before them. And it's my hope that this monument would help inspire current and future brothers to be the best people that they can be. We all have the power and the responsibility to be a force for positive change on campus within our fraternities and our communities. And as you can see, there's space left on the back of the monument to inscribe the names of future Constantine Sigs and significant Sigs, and maybe someday one of the brothers living in the house today will be inspired to achieve such an honor. Without a strong understanding of our past, we really cannot build our future. This Anvil represents our past and our values. And now our bright future is in the hands of the current and upcoming brothers. Thanks again, everyone, for organizing this great event.
Part of the story. There's a group, an organization that we obviously can't leave out, and that is Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. From the very first days that we came up with the concept of Pinewood's Educational Foundation and the new kind of things that we were going to do with this chapter house, the president of Rensselaer and her vice presidents have all been incredibly supportive of the concept that we put forward. We had in our campaign brochure, there's a wonderful letter from President Jackson endorsing our project, endorsing Sigma Chi, endorsing fraternities in general on the RPI campus. We're trying to embrace a concept of class, which we'll hear about in a minute, I would expect, and essentially I guess I should spend 2 seconds just to say where we are is when you go into this chapter house and you go into what used to be our living room, what used to be the library, the essence of those rooms is now an educational space. The anticipation is that we will have training programs, we will have seminars, we will have leadership development programs, all conducted in those rooms. Okay? We're still in the process of doing that. We've got about 15 courses that we want to have, which really are where we think the world is going today, that people need more than a basic academic education. They need to learn how to be true leaders in our community and in the world. They need to develop social skills. They need to develop manners. They need to know what's going on. So that's the concept of where we were going, and I think that's also the concept of where Rensselaer is life at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and one of our favorite campus people.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you. Before I get into my prepared remarks, I have 4 unprepared comments. The first is, and this is what speech givers are often told not to do, and that is to try to thank everyone. I'm not going to try to thank everyone. I'm going to thank, however, our City Council President for being here this morning and being a part of this great moment. I'm also going to thank the Grand Council, Mr. Greenberg, and our past Grand Council, Mr. Bob Jones, for also being here this morning. As well as the rest of the fraternity, the alumni, friends, family members for being here this morning. And you too should give yourself a round of applause. But finally, in terms of my thanks, I want to give thanks to 2 other persons. That's Mr. Pomeroy for his tremendous contribution and commitment, not only to his fraternity, but by extension, Rensselaer. Thank you very much. This last thank you will go to someone who's really not expecting this, Mr. Paul Cosgrove, and that is for allowing me to be with your people.
If I talked about your people, you'd be really mad.
But he said that to me earlier. He said that to me earlier, and I said, depends on which people you're talking about. We all have multiple groups which we're members of, right? The second thing I want to do is ask you to consider putting on another extension. Wait. Let me tell you why. I don't know if you know this, but I found out a few minutes ago that those who are here for this ceremony, for this moment, make up 1/3 of those who have returned this weekend for reunion weekend. So I figured, if we plan to put on another extension, in a few years, we can make that 1/2. Right? So just something to consider. Right? Thirdly, I do want to ask everyone to look around. Just turn around and look at who's here. Look at how many folks are here. And just think about what that represents. It represents, in my mind, 2 things. For you undergraduate students, it represents the wide community who continues to support you and your success. And secondly, it represents the wide range of commitment that we all have, not only to this fraternity, but to this university. So I want to thank you for being here this morning and making yourselves a part of this very significant moment and a significant community. This is a good moment. One of the privileges you have in working in administration is that you get a lot of opportunities and a lot of pleasure in seeing moments like this. Moments of growth, moments of commitment, moments where the affinity that people have, that alumni have for their institution really gets manifested before your eyes. And the fourth comment I will make. Some of you know that for some folks I was unfortunate, for others I was fortunate. I attended the other college at the other end of Route 7, Union College. So don't hold that against me. I had to go somewhere, right? And in terms of my career, I've only ever worked at DeCracker. This is the first STEM, if you will, institute that I've worked at. When I talk to folks, they ask me, what is the difference? Today, I am witnessing one of the differences. And that is this. I got here 2 years ago, and I remember sitting down with some of the principals of this project. And if I recall, you told me then this would take 3 years, right? And this is now year 2, right? Let me tell you, at a liberal arts college, it would have been 4. That's a big difference. So let me get into my remarks and leave you alone. Hello, everyone. That's part of my remarks. My name is Dr. Sam, and I serve Rensselaer College as the Vice President of Student Life. I am honored, and truly I am, to be here today on behalf of Dr. Jackson, the Board of Trustees, and our entire Rensselaer family to join the dedication of the Pomeroy Chapter House for our brothers of Sigma Chi fraternity. As many of you know, we have a strong Greek community here at RPI, dating back to 1863, a community of leaders, volunteers, and of course, scholars. As I stand before this amazing new house, I can't help but be inspired by the dedication of the alumni and the students who were able to achieve this awesome project. Rensselaer is a lifetime experience, and the alumni brothers of Sig Chi embody that like no other. Through their leadership and vision, they created the Pinewoods Educational Foundation, a not-for-profit designed to provide educational and leadership opportunities for the undergraduates of Sigma Chi, as well as other members of our Greek life commons. I am impressed by how the alumni fully embrace class and have implemented space on the property for leadership development, a renovated library, and a beautiful alumni room. All rooms that will be used in the personal, professional, and leadership development of your members and our wider student body. I understand that they even plan to allow certain spaces in the house to be used for other student organizations so that the Pinewoods Foundation can reach even more students. This is unparalleled leadership, as shown by the alumni group, and truly reflects the values of class. And I am proud to have the Pomeroy Chapter House to lead the way in what RPI fraternity and sorority homes should aspire to be. I believe that the partnership of the alumni, the relationship with our neighbors on Pinewood Ave and surrounding areas, the dedication of the students, commitment from Rensselaer through class, and the support of Mayor Rosamila and the City of Troy has been nothing short of extraordinary. To all of our interfraternal members and alumni present, I encourage you to seek out the alumni of Sigma Chi and to consider what they have accomplished here to be something that you should aspire to match. Some students have come to hear me say this quite often. To whom much is given, much is expected. your alumni, and I'm speaking to you undergraduate brothers, your alumni, the university, the city of Troy, and others have put their faith in you. And now you will enjoy your college years in this wonderful house, again, that many have made possible for you. I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, what do I now owe? What do you owe your fraternity? Owe your alumni? Owe your neighbors? Owe your visitors? Owe your city? And owe your university? I would ask that you think of possibly 3 things. You owe them to be your best in whatever you do, especially academically. Secondly, make your fraternity and your house the gold standard by which others are measured. And finally, be the men that your father, and most especially your mother, would be proud of. If you do these things, then you have paid the high homage to those upon whose shoulders you stand. Congratulations to all of the brothers who made this possible, and thank you for your dedication to our students, our city, and Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sams. He brings up a point that I get a kick out of when you say, especially in mothers. Often, as chapter advisor, someone will say to me, so what do you think of this idea? And they'll propose something. And I always use the following litmus test when I think about it. I'll say, all right, so let's get on your cell phone, let's call your mom and dad, and let's ask them whether they think that's a good idea. If they say yes, then let's go with it. Nobody's taking me up on it. One of these days we will. The remainder of our life, in terms of being working with city officials, working with contractors, corporations, working with school, brings us kind of full circle to the organization whose letters are right above me, and that is Sigma Chi. They are, as you may or may not know, we moved into this house in 1942, and it was, at that time, it was a local fraternity, and it was called Phi Epsilon Phi. Then in 1950, they became associated with Sigma Chi fraternity. They were installed as the Delta Psi chapter of Sigma Chi, but stayed in this house. So we've been here, 70 years on this property. And throughout that time, we have been very, very lucky to be associated with the top international fraternity, Greek fraternity in the world. Each year, we send 6 to 7 of our brothers to the Balfour Leadership Training Workshop, which is put on by the Sigma Chi fraternity with funding from the Sigma Chi Foundation, and have approximately 2,000 people who are trained every year, 2,000 students for the most part, that are trained every year in leadership skills. We heard talk about Constantine Capital, which loaned us seed money to get started on this. They provide incredible resources. In that fraternity, there are international officers, because we are both located in Canada and the United States. And using our common terms, the international president is known as the Grand Consul, as all the international officers are Grand something or other. And we at RPI have been very, very privileged in the sense that there have been 68 Grand Consuls in the history of Sigma Chi fraternity. And one of those grand councils is a member of the Delta Psi chapter from the class of 1973. So out of 68 people in almost 240 chapters, approximately 240 chapters, and over 200,000 members, over 300,000 members, we have been lucky enough to have one of our brothers serving 2 years as Grand Council. Incredible honor, incredible achievement for that individual. So, more said, I'd like to introduce that individual to you. Class of 1973, past Grand Council, Robert Henry Wellens Jones III.
Thank you, Justin. That's going to be on your pledge test, by the way. Good morning. I also want to recognize one other Grand Officer who's here. This came in. Brother Ted Pitt is our Grand Praetor, who's in the back of the. Grand Praetors serve as sort of a governor of the region, which we call a province. One personal comment before I do the honors of introducing our current Grand Consul. I often remark that in 1969, when I arrived on this campus, I walked through this front door as a boy. In 1973, when I left, I walked through that door as a man. A very powerful experience with this chapter. I continually reminded of that as I can only begin to give back what this fraternity has given to me. Michael A. Greenberg of Illinois Wesleyan, 1982, pledged Sigma Chi in 1978. As an undergraduate, Mike served as the chapter's Magister, which is our pledge trainer, which he credits as fostering his lifelong passion for teaching the concept of enduring leadership. His list of contributions as an alumnus is long and diverse, and if I read it all, this is the synopsis, I would speak longer than he is. He's been a facilitator at our Balfour Leadership Training Workshop 30 times and was a recipient of the Carlisle Outstanding Faculty Award in 1999. 2000, he was appointed to Team Balfour, which is the workshop's organizing committee, and served in that role until 2008. So 2005, and then in 2008, I made one of my best appointments as Grand Consul, and I appointed him to head the entire workshop. He was also responsible for the creation of Mission 365, which is Sigma Chi's revolutionary recruitment training program. Furthering his personal drive to create enduring leaders, Mike served as the founding member of the Horizon Leadership Development Workshop's Operating Board from 1998 to 2011 and its chairman from 2009 to 2011. Mike was elected Grand Quaestor at the 2009 Grand Chapter, that's our international treasurer. He was elected Grand Proconsul, our International Vice President in 2011, and served as Chairman of our Grand Council in 2012. Then he was elected our 68th Grand Consul at the fraternity's 79th Grand Chapter in 2013. We wear a little different badge than you do, than our other members do. We have one of our founders' original badges from our founding in 1855, when we were known as the Sigma Phi fraternity. We changed our name 1 year later. And Mike has the privilege of office of wearing that badge, which I wore for 2 years as well, and I wear a replica. And he won't say it, but I will. You have our permission to stare at his chest the rest of the day. Throughout his life, he's been actively engaged in other philanthropic activities such as the Illinois Special Olympics, Boys and Girls Clubs, and American Cancer Society, as well as founding the Dream and Believe program in 1998, which he currently serves as acting president. He lives in Riverwoods, Illinois. We welcome brothers and guests, our 68th Grand Council, Mike Greenberg.
I am going to be brief because I told Bob Shortle I would. He's got a stopwatch. But a few observations. I'm realizing that I am standing between rough and lunch. Interesting positioning of the two final speakers, right? I'm also comforted that the neighbors support this fraternity, this chapter house, as I see Himalayan prayer flags across the street. Concerning. And I am getting ready to move, and I'm stunned by the fact that a construction project could be on time, on budget, because my house that's being built right now, if we're lucky, we'll get into December 13th. So at least I'm thinking about flying you out to Chicago to kind of help me get that orchestrated. So ready, set, go. You know, what a great honor it is to be here with brothers, sweethearts, friends, neighbors, university officials. One of the things I've prided myself on is creating enduring leaders. And one of the things I love about Sigma Chi, when we do it right, that's what we do best. Because the world expects more of us. And nowhere has that been displayed more than right here at Delta Psi. You know, during my travels, which we get to do quite often, I can tell you the great chapters from the average chapters. And there's two characteristics that the great chapters have. First is a connection to the ritual and everything it stands for. Living those values, displaying those values in a very real and public way. And second, and most important, is an alumni following and gathering, an active alumni participation. And what an incredible gathering you guys have pulled off here. Just tremendous. I've been to Southeast Conference schools, Pac-10 schools, Big Ten schools, and here, in this 63-year-old institution with 1,200 some odd members that have passed through this house, you have more of an alumni commitment and gathering that I see at some of those very institutions. So you all should give yourselves a round of applause. One of the things we're focusing on in the general fraternity, and I'll be brief, is standing what we stand for, is that becoming the preeminent leaders on our campuses and in our communities. And part of that initiative is being reconnected to our ritual and starting to communicate that ritual in a real public way. And so today I just kind of want to talk to you about what I see briefly and let you know that I think we are ready to take on this community and raise the bar on this campus to new levels. And Dr. Sams, you have this commitment from us as a general fraternity. Everything we do and everything we say, we will be collaborative and transparent with you. You can count on our undergraduates because I know them. They're ready to serve, they're ready to leave, and when you have a project, you call Sigma Chi and we'll be there for you. Right? Second, so we talk about transformational leadership. 2005, when I was here, when the house didn't look so great. I remember linoleum tiles coming up as I walked because they stuck to my foot. And to watch this transformation now, and to see what you all have accomplished is unbelievable. It's fantastic. It really shows what our RBCs, our Ritual, Brotherhood, and Club are all about. It shows that we can come together and enjoy each other's company socially. It shows that as a brotherhood, we will always have strong hearts and true hearts, that we can gather around one another and support one another to do great things. And finally, this represents a symbol of our ritual and the values that we stand for, the values that we're going to lead for. So it seems only fitting 10 years later, when we were down to 8 or 12 brothers back then, to be now at the pinnacle, ready to take that next step. What a wonderful way to begin that journey with this fabulous structure in the house. The general fraternity stands behind the Delta Psi alumni and the Delta Psi undergraduates. We look forward to more excellence from you, and call on us anytime you need us, and we will be there to lend our strong arms and true hearts for you. Thank you very much.
To bring everything full cycle, I want to just talk a little bit about the undergraduate brotherhood and the sacrifices that the undergraduates have made in making this chapter house a reality. Last year, as you know, we were not in this neighborhood at all because the house was under construction. Instead, our undergraduate brothers lived in 8 different locations around the Troy area. You can imagine what it's like to carry on a brotherhood when people are that split up. Everybody was in a different secure location, the dormitories that you can't just walk into like you can in a fraternity house and start to talk to people and see people. It was an incredibly difficult year for our undergraduates. Yet at that time, they ended up with 22 pledges. We ended up initiating 21 new members, again, without having a fraternity house that we were in. So that just shows you a little bit about the strength of this undergraduate brotherhood, that they can put up with the bumps that are in the road, and they can still come up strong and as leaders. The other thing I guess I wanted to point out is that, just so all the alums and neighbors understand, all that there are currently 48 members here in this chapter house. Of those 48, 40 have never lived in the chapter house before. So this is brand new to them. We're all learning as we go. They're learning how to be good neighbors. They're learning how to take care of this house. They're learning how to be good leaders. They're learning to be assets to our community. And I couldn't be more proud of the group. They really are doing a great job on this campus. I would like to, with that, invite the current undergraduate president, Joseph Carby, to come up and make a few comments. I will let you know that he is very, very, very nervous about it. So no confidence. So let's give him all the support we can. Get him through.
Yes, I am very nervous. All right. I've been spending the past few weeks trying to think. If you think about it, it's a very open topic, quite frankly. Things that I was thinking about talking about are, we've raised thousands of dollars for community service, or for philanthropies. We've done hundreds of community service hours. This past semester, we've had the highest GPA. But I would say that this isn't really the important thing that happens in this chapter. I would say it's all a result of the true strengths that we have as a chapter and as an organization. And the real state of the chapter comes from a different place. And I have my roommate's pledge manual right here, and I wanted to do a quick reading out of it. It's in the very first pages, and it's something that we've been alluding to with Jim and Aki calling it the house builder. It's a reading called The Bridge Builder. An old man, going alone on the highway, came to the evening holding way, to a chasm vast and deep and wide, through which was flowing the sullen tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen stream has no fears for him, but he stopped when safe on the other side, and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man, a fellow builder here, you are wasting your strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending day. You will never again pass this way. You've crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build you this bridge at eventide? The builder lifted his old gray head. Good friend, in the path I have come, he said, there followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm which has been not to me, to that fair-haired youth my pitfall be. You too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building this bridge for him. And I wanted to read that because it relates to our chapter. I think the idea of this bridge builder is where we pulled the most from as a chapter. In two real ways. It's in the pledge manual, of course, because that is the fundamental idea of pledging, is we are trying to make these pledges into the best signatories that we can, into the best people that we can. And when I want to talk about how strong our chapter is now, I want to tell you a story about last weekend. We had a little pledge activity where the pledges were sitting in the back with a bunch of like marshmallows, straws, and they were told to make something out of this that exemplifies Sigma Chi and exemplifies our ideas. And they're put into groups, and one group actually made a bridge with a white cross on it. And that, to me, really impressed me because we have just started pledging these people, and they already know exactly what we want to do. And quite frankly, we have to be doing something right. If within a week they already know what we want to do over the next 8 weeks. And then the other way is in relating to Jim Menaki and how we've been calling him the house builder is an allusion to this story. And we have all of these alums coming back, all of you coming back to see this new house. We've raised absurd amounts of money over the past few years so that we can have this new structure, so that we can have all of these opportunities for the chapter. And so I think that our chapter, I would say our chapter's true strength, the true state of the chapter comes from the fact that from the moment that you're pledged till years and years beyond, you're continually looking forward to see what you can do to help those who are coming after you. And this idea of the bridge builder is so embodied within our chapter. I would say that is the state that we are in. That is the state of our chapter, and that's where our strength comes from. I was also told to make an announcement. I want to not forget. At 3:30, there is the ritualistic dedication, and that is open to everyone. There's been confusion. That is open to everyone. You should all come to it, and it's a very interesting ceremony to see us officially dedicate this new house. That's all I have to say.
Change in the order of events here. Bob Cunningham arrived a little bit ago, and unfortunately he was not here when I was giving thanks earlier, but I want to recognize Bob, and Bob, please stand up. Bob is the genius. It's Bob genius behind both the aesthetic design of the current structure and also the functional design, that we actually have a real durable fraternity house that looks like an old Victorian that fits in the neighborhood. Bob, thank you so much for everything you've done.
All right, it's almost time for lunch. I want to close with a couple of comments about sense of family and neighborhood. Okay? And I particularly want to make these comments to the neighbors that are here today. You can see that we take great pride in this structure. I'm going to tell you that we are taking great pride in being part of this neighborhood. We will promise you that we will redouble our efforts to be good neighbors, that we will help out if there are issues or difficulties. Very simple to resolve those problems. It's part of having individuals who are 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. We want them to grow up. We want them to learn good things. We want them to be good neighbors when they leave Troy, New York. We want them to understand what it is to be in a united group. And I think that on the east side of Troy, I think we've got a pretty good neighborhood association. I think they communicate a lot. I think we've heard good things from the neighbors. And I want to mention one thing that the undergraduate chapter is doing. We had, and the president, vice president will be going around with sheets later to your individual homes with this information. But we have established a phone number that will not change from year to year. So we're not going to have this scenario where you always got to keep on top of the chapter president, vice president, risk manager's phone number, but we are establishing a number that we will give you on a business card, which you can call anytime, and it will ring through to 4 individuals. So if we're doing something wrong or there's a problem, you can call that number and say you're too loud, or you got cars parked in the wrong place, or whatever the case, or we need some help. Okay? Can you come over here and help us move something? Right? This is an honest commitment. We are, you can see decorations here. Hopefully moving forward you'll see more decorations. I think the house kind of fits in nice with the neighborhood. I think it maintains the character of the neighborhood, and we really honestly want to be able to continue to do that and be good neighbors to everyone here. Okay? So with that said, issues, questions, anybody? Yes, see right.
I was not on the program, but I was compelled to say something. As a council of too many years, I don't want to even guess how many back, and in the comments by the Grand Council, it moved me to make this remark. Truly, today, the White Cross of Sigma Chi has gained your luster.
Thanks everybody for coming this morning. I hope you come back at 3:30 this afternoon schedule. We have the 3:30 dedication. 4:30 we have President Jackson. 5:30 is refreshment hour, if you know what I mean. 6:30 is dinner, and 8 o'clock we'll have a few final speeches in the some things up in the tent, and then 9 o'clock Oedipus and the mothers will be performing. I'd also like to especially recognize Ed Ziemer for coming in today. Ed's right in the front here. Ed is one of the founding fathers of our fraternity, the only one here today. Ed, can you stand up, please? Ed was the class of 1951. So you would have seniority Ed, if Mike Greenberg was here, but I understand Mike Greenberg gets seniority. Okay, so I'm pretty hungry right now, so we're going to do lunch. I want you to come here through the front door, and we'll go out the dining room to the tent, and they're waiting for you in 2 lines. If anybody wants to avoid the lunch line, and they want to do tours, just come up to the front here. We have 5 undergraduate brothers and 5 alumni brothers that are conducting tours of the house if you want them. Does anybody else have anything to say? Okay, I think we'll do grace right now since we're not going to eat. Okay? Our Father, we thank you for the many blessings. Keep us from harm. May the White Cross guide us and teach us to be true to each other, ourselves, and thee. Amen. Thank you very much.